And there's intimacy on the radio, and there's naturalness on the radio that can never be replicated on TV. The marvelous resurgence of radio as a political force in this country.
News-related radio programming is evolving.
There's a huge hole in our dialogue that can be filled by the synthesis of traditional radio and the freedom that comes from a live podcast. You're about to experience Cowboy State Politics live. Here we go. Good morning, my friends, and welcome to another tremendous installment from very high above all the insipid and perfidious forms of Wyoming mainstream media. This is Cowboy State Politics. I, of course, am your illustrious host, David Iverson, firmly ensconced behind the silver Cowboy State Politics microphone and broadcasting to you from the base of the... Oh, no. I wish I was there. Man, I was talking to a friend yesterday. I was like, I want to be home. I have had enough of the swamp. Well, I'm still down here, and we are in the depths of the middle swamp. And I tell you, my friends, I'm here until the bitter end, whatever that turns out to be. Well, I've got a big program for you today. There's a lot of stuff happening. Today is the day, of course, of the Super Special Ed Committee that's going to be investigating this whole check. Well, I don't even know what we could call it. It's not a boondoggle, because, you know, boondoggles kind of imply that there's something there, because there's not. It's a committee to investigate something that is entirely legal and not against the rules. But nonetheless, the House voted for it. And so we've got to go through that today at 3 o'clock. Can't wait to see what that's going to be like. My guess is there will probably be more members of the media in the Supreme Court chamber than actual, members of the electorate, which I guess, of course, members of the media, they do vote mostly for Democrats. But, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens and what they try to turn this into. So anyway, that's going on. There's House Bill 10, which is the pornography book bill oh my God, do I have some audio for you that came out of that committee meeting. You always know that things are desperate for the American left when they pull out the Bible and misquote it. Because, if you've read any Christian theologian, one of the main themes you will see is, and it's very clear in the Bible too, that Satan uses your words against you, that he uses half-truths and misrepresentations, and he distorts them to try to convince you of things that aren't true. Well, that happened in a committee meeting, and it's from a guy who claims to be a worship leader, quote unquote worship leader. And I mean, that's terrifying enough when you hear what he's been teaching. But anyway, we're going to talk about that. Just so happens, I've got a couple of different Bibles here, and both of them prove him wrong. So anyway, we're going to go into that. The recalibration bill is going through the House, or at least it's been assigned to House Education. And we're kind of getting down to the end of the session, and so things start to move very quickly. Both the Senate and the House have assigned their conference committees to deal with the budget, and that's where we're going to start this morning, because what you'll find is the members of the House assigned people that they do know the budget. They helped craft the Joint Appropriations Committee budget, which, by the way, the Senate participated in, not that much. Because most of them didn't make a single motion during the Joint Appropriations Committee. But anyway, we'll go through that. And actually, let's go ahead and before I move any further, I went ahead and opened up the phone lines this morning. If you want to be part of the show, the phone number is 307-374-8989, 307-374-8989. If there's something on your mind that you want to talk about, go ahead and give me a call. and we'll talk about it. So let me put that up on the screen for you. There we go. There's the phone number. So we begin with the joint conference committee that's happening over the budget. And to the cow pie, in an article entitled, Wyoming Senate and House Choose Teams to Hash Out the $170 million Budget Gap. And I quote, Wyoming Senate President Bo Biteman on Wednesday announced the appointment of 5 senators to send to smooth out the $170 million in budget differences between the Senate and the House of Representatives. The House picked its members Tuesday. Wyoming Senate President Dennis Bo Biteman on Wednesday announced the appointment of his 5 senators in the upper chamber. And so those 5 senators include 4 quote-unquote Republicans and 1 Democrat. So Dennis appointed himself, Majority Leader Senator Slithers, Tara Nethercott, Senate Appropriations Chair Tim Salazar, who really didn't share all that much of anything in the Joint Appropriations Committee, but anyway, we'll give him a C for effort. And then Senators Gary Crum, who is a freshman in the Wyoming's upper house and really doesn't know anything about the budget process, but why not put him on the committee anyway? And then Biteman put on the committee Jackson's own Senator Kangaroo Mike Sherrill. So what a team that he's got in the Senate. Anyway, the Senate applauded the announcement Wednesday morning. Thank you. Well, we shall return with honor, says Dennis Biteman. Much like the honor you returned with last year, where you blew up the entire supplemental budget, refused to talk about it, and then went and walked to the media and blamed everything on the House. That's the kind of honor that you get from the Wyoming Senate. In any case, he told the cow pie in a Monday interview that he wanted team players for the Budget Conference Committee and that the Senate contained many people who fit that description. On the House side, and this is the striking difference here, on the House side, Speaker of the House Chip Nyman announced Tuesday evening that his 5 negotiators, all Republicans, will include himself, House Appropriations Chair John Baer, Majority Leader Scott Heiner, and Appropriations members Abby Angelos and Agent 29, Representative Pendergraft. And so the members of the House were fully involved in this committee. Anyway, the Joint Conference Committee were fully involved in the crafting of this year's budget. And by fully involved, I mean they were pretty much there the entire time. Now, with the exception of Chip Nyman and Scott Heiner. But as you noticed in the Senate's version, it's the presiding officer and the majority floor leader. So that one is a given. But the rest of them, they're people that were directly involved in crafting the budget. So Abby Angelos and Ken Pender. Now you can make the same argument about Senator Tim Salazar and Kangaroo Mike Sherrill. They were in the room, it's true, but they really didn't. I mean, you go back and watch the video. They really didn't participate all that much. In fact, John Baer chaired most of the Joint Appropriations Committee. I mean, to be fair, Tim Salazar did have a few moments, but most of the time it was chaired by members of the House. And again, all you got to do is go do your own research and go watch the video yourself to find out that that's absolutely the case. So the cow pie goes on, and this is the way it works. So the first conference committee, they're constrained to amendments that were passed in their respective chambers on the budget. Okay, so they can go back and forth on those measures. Now, if it turns out to be like last year, that the Senate blew up the negotiations, then the next committee that is appointed is called a free committee, in which case the free committee can pretty much do whatever they want, budget related. And so really what needs to happen is these two groups of people need to get together, they need to buckle down, and they need to do their work, period. The problem, though, is you have, and, this sounds like I'm entirely biased and a little bit, and I am a little bit, but in this case, you have members of the House who were fully engaged in crafting the budget. And then on the Senate side, Senator Slithers, really? Yeah, she was involved in destroying last year's supplemental budget. Dennis Biteman, he really wasn't all that involved in the Joint Appropriations Committee. And then you have Salazar and Kangaroo Mike Giroux. I don't know. This whole conference committee, I think, is going to make for fun television to watch, and that's going to kick off. I'm not exactly sure the exact date that it's going to kick off. So anyway, that's happening. And if you paid attention to social media yesterday, we've got another person that entered the race for the United States House, a guy named David Geralt from Casper. We don't know too much about him except that he's a veteran, former Army Ranger. I took a look at his website, and like all campaign websites in Wyoming, he sounds very, very conservative. But we're going to have to dig into his positions, and I'll send him an invite to come on the program, and we'll find out who he is and ask him some questions. And it should be interesting. So the race for the U.S. House of Representatives is becoming kind of a circus. So now we have Chuck Gray, you have Jillian Balow, this David Geralt guy, and there's a couple of others. Reed Reisner, and there's another guy too. But it really is becoming a circus. And usually, this is usually what Republicans do in Wyoming. We have an open seat, and none of them can get in a room and have a discussion, decide who's actually going to be the candidate. Nope. We have to run 15 different people, and then the vote gets split, and usually it's the rhino. And at least this has been the case with the governor. The last race for the House of Representatives, it started out with a lot of people running for the House. Let's see here. 6, 7, 8, something like that. And then Harriet Hageman entered, and I guess this is two elections ago. And a whole bunch of them dropped out. So, who knows what's going to happen? It's only February. I'll be at the end of February, and the election isn't until August. So we got a lot of time before then and now, and there's going to be lots to talk about on that. But as far as right now, really not that much to talk about. Let's see here. So let's see. You know what? Let's go ahead and take our first break, and when we come back, we'll continue with the show. Back in a minute. Yeah, I know. The weather seems to be toying with us. 60 one day, 42 the next, and pretty soon, my friends, those 6s and 4s are going to turn into 3s and 2s. Though we all want to avoid it, that white stuff is coming, my friends, and you will be shoveling the walk in it. It's cold, it's unpleasant, and nobody likes to do it. But you could make it just a little bit more comfortable and prevent your feet from turning into a giant block of ice. In fact, you could keep them nice and warm and toasty, and your toes will never even know that they're outside. The rest of you may be frozen solid, but at least your feet won't be. To make all this happen, you just need a pair of socks from the Buffalo Wool Company. They are the finest socks that I've ever put on my feet. To get you a pair, go to their website, thebuffalowoolco.com. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Are you one of those guys that listen to the president just a little bit too closely, and now you're tired of winning? Are you getting the feeling that there's been way too many good things happening in our country, and you just can't take it anymore? Well, if you are, and you think you should follow Rosie O'Donnell's example and get the heck out of Dodge, you need to call Rebecca Bextel at eXp Realty. She'll make those foreign country living ideas a reality for you. All you have to do is call 307-699-3519, and she'll make sure some freedom-loving, red-blooded American will now live in the home that you no longer want. If you want to sell your house, or if you want to buy one that's way better than the house you have right now, give Rebecca a call. Again, her phone number is 307-699-3519.
I've never felt the freedom like I do. I feel stronger every day, don't you? Well, I can show you how. A new day, a new way. Watch out, I'm only gonna get strong.
Cowboy State Politics is only going to get stronger. This program is only going to continue to expand with Cowboy State Politics Live, the Cowboy State Politics Podcast, the Open Range Record, which if you haven't checked that out, and I'm sure most everybody in this audience has, it is absolutely tremendous. And the numbers, my friends, it is obvious that that people in Wyoming citizens are sick and tired to death of the main lamestream drive-by media, and they just want something that's an outlet that's going to shoot it straight to them. So that's what we're doing at the Open Range Record. Weird, a news company that reports the news. Anyway, my friends, welcome back to the program. I appreciate you watching. It's Thursday down here in the Middle Swamp, and today is going to be a busy day. We've got that special ed committee that's happening, and okay, so maybe you think I'm being a little bit too harsh, but this entire thing has been a sham from the very beginning. And all right, fine. I admit it. I don't really like how the whole thing looked on the floor, but no laws were broken, no rules were broken. And campaign financing, it is protected free speech. The case is called Citizens United. And the thing is, if the legislature wanted to ban, campaign fundraising, in their chamber, the House of Representatives could do that, or the Senate. But they can't ban campaign fundraising, elsewhere on state property because it's protected speech. And, I really wish the committee would have read Citizens United before they convened today, but who knows? Maybe some of them did. I seriously doubt it. But anyway, my friends, thanks for watching the program. And so let me get back to my articles here. I didn't print them out this morning. Let's see here. So there is one of the biggest issues that always crops up during the budget session. Well, and really, any type of session is direct distributions to municipalities. And so towns, cities, counties, they'll collect sales tax. And the state keeps a portion of that, and then the rest of it is divvied up amongst the rest of the municipalities. And of course, your town can vote to raise the sales tax, and I think the top number is 7%. But you can vote if there's a special project that you want to vote for. Yeah, you can raise the sales tax. In Sheridan, they have this stupid general purpose excise tax, GPET, and they end up giving a whole bunch of it away to quote unquote so-called nonprofits, and it's specifically prevented by Article 16, Section 6 of the Wyoming Constitution, but they do it anyway. But counties and towns, and they come with their handout down here to the legislature, and everybody's looking for your money. So this one is a piece in the Turkey Vulture. Now before I even get into this, here's another issue I meant to address this morning. At the top of this piece, it's about direct distribution bill advances in the Senate. Here's what it says. This story is part of a collaborative legislative initiative by Wildfile, the Wyoming Tribune Eagle, the Sheridan Press, and the Jackson Hole News and Guide to deliver comprehensive coverage of Wyoming's 2026 budget session. So riddle me that. When did it happen that media companies, when did it happen that they stopped competing with one another? It used to be that if you had dueling papers in a town, each of them tried to get the most readership. We do live in a free enterprise capitalist society, or at least we used to. And if you have your own paper, that's your own business. And so you want to get more readers and more distribution, and therefore more advertisers, and therefore make more money. So when exactly did so-called, we'll call them media companies because they're not news companies. When did they start teaming up? When they're no longer in competition with one another, and they've decided we're all going to work on this together. Collectivism, my friends. I'll answer that. They all started working together when news became politicized. And it's all, okay, and let me define that. So I don't mean that news at one point was ever unbiased, because that's not true. Okay, you can go all the way back to some of the earliest newspapers, and none of them were completely unbiased. There was, and I'm just making up names, but you can go look at these. You might have the Philadelphia Republican or the Cleveland Democrat, and I mean, in their names, they said, hey, we're a Republican or we're Democrat. But the difference between then and now, just with that little issue, is at least they were honest about it. Now, the press, the media, they wrap up opinion to look like news. And they try to shove it down your throat and convince you that their tale is, their narrative is the absolute truth. And it's not at all. And so when you have a whole bunch of media operations that all have owners that are politically aligned in the same way, what you get is collectivism. You get one collective narrative that comes out of them. And the thinking that goes on behind this is, if we're all telling the same story, well, then everybody is going to assume that that's the truth because we're all saying the same thing. So why wouldn't anybody, why wouldn't everybody think that that's exactly what happened? And so this is the perfect evidence you need to say they're all in it together. And answer me this, riddle me that. I've got the phone number up on the screen. I'll take your call on this one. I'll take your call on just about anything today. But when exactly did we go from, being biased or being kind of at least honest about your bias, and when we turned into where we are? And here is the question, my friends. Riddle me this, riddle me that. When is the last time that you saw a story come out of the mainstream media that was critical of any of the redcoats? That's the question. Name me one story, just one, that you can find that has been critical of any of the redcoats. Steve Harshman, Landon Brown, Art Washut. Art Washut's a big giant redcoat. Yeah, I know he's the head of this stupid committee. But definitely a redcoat. I mean, you can go to Evidence-Based Wyoming and see how often he votes with the Republicans, and it's not very much. Okay, most of the time he votes with the Democrat majority in the House of Representatives. But answer this question: when is the last time you saw a story that was critical of any of the redcoats? When's the last time? Now, I'll let you think on that, and I don't expect that I'll get too many calls on this one because I haven't seen one. And I do this show just about every day, and I peruse the news every morning before I come here and get online and talk to you. But I haven't seen one in a really long time, and that tells you, I mean, that fact alone, and it is a fact, by the way, that fact alone tells you that they're not interested in telling you the news. They're not interested in telling you the truth. They're not even interested in telling you what's going on. The only thing they're writing is their own opinion. And so anyway, if you want to call in and talk about that, I think we could talk about that the rest of the program. But the number is 307-374-8989, 307-374-8989. So if you got an answer to that, an article not on the, I should put a caveat on there, not on Cowboy State Politics or on the Open Range Record. Name me one article that you found that's been critical of the redcoats from the mainstream drive-by press in Wyoming. So let's get to this article here. And I quote, "A bill to codify Wyoming's longstanding practice of distributing funds to local governments has cleared the first two hurdles in the Senate and may get its final vote there on Thursday." Wyoming's direct distribution program was first introduced in 2004. Every 2 years since, lawmakers have debated how much money from the state's general fund to distribute to municipalities and counties around the state as they craft the state's biennial budgets. Distribution amounts are based on municipalities and counties' sales and use tax collection per capita and assessed value per capita. So in 2024, the last time they debated this, they appropriated $73.125 million annually. So roughly, using round numbers, $150 million for the biennium through June 30th of 2026 for statewide direct distribution payments. Now, the truth is that there are a lot of communities in Wyoming that don't really have a heck of a lot going on, business-wise, that they don't have a lot of businesses moving in or opening up. And so, I mean, you drive down their main street and there's, vacant buildings all over the place. You drive downtown Main Street in Buffalo, and there's empty buildings, right downtown, which, and here's the other thing too, that the small town business in Wyoming, really is a summer business. A lot of these towns really just operate, during the summer. And so you've got to make all of your money in 3 or 4 months to last you the rest of the year, just because you just don't have enough people to live there. Now, when you get to towns that are a little bit bigger, like Sheridan, Sheridan's got north of 20,000 people that live there, so you got enough people to support the businesses that are there. And so anyway, the state created this direct distribution program, your tax money, right? Tax dollars, sales tax dollars anyway. That's divvied up. Now, House Bill 107, the local government distributions, would enshrine the practice of distributing funds to local governments in Wyoming law. It's kind of already there, but it's one of those weird Wyoming things that isn't. It's strange, and we'll talk about that on a different program. But anyway, before the bill sailed through the House, by unanimous consent, members voted to increase the distribution from an annual 5.6% sales and use tax revenue to an additional 7% of the revenue for the direct distribution program. Doing so would distribute approximately $66 million to local governments annually. The Senate Appropriations Committee voted to further increase the distribution to an additional 8%, which would distribute approximately $75 million annually. Senator Tim Salazar said the entire Senate adopted the amendment via voice vote, meaning individual votes were not tallied. Okay, so it started out at 5.6, or right around 6% in the House. It goes to the Senate, and those spendthrifts added another 2% on top of it. But, Wyoming's got to get away from this idea that taxpayers fund everything. Now, sales tax, if it's generated in your town, yep, you definitely deserve a piece of that pie. But here's why I say that we need to focus on, we have to have a different mindset when it comes to our communities, because they are funded by tax revenue. And so the name of the game ought to be to generate as much sales and use tax as possible. And so the way that you do that is you create an environment that is welcoming to business, that businesses want to move there, that it's easy to set up a business, that it's, you don't have a lot of regulations, there's not a lot of oversight. And so it's easy for somebody to open a business and run it. The business of Wyoming communities ought to be business. In other words, and don't take that wrong. I can already hear the trolls on social media quickly typing away on their keyboards. What I mean is that local municipalities should make it as easy as possible to set up a business. Low regulations, low oversight. You don't have a lot of inspectors. In Sheridan, we've got, I don't know how many inspectors had to come through the lovely Christine Salon before we could even finish building in some cases. They had to inspect the screws in the drywall. I am not kidding you, my friends. They had a guy come in and look and see where we had put screws in the drywall. Now, if you have an inspector that's doing it, I think perhaps maybe you might consider that you got too many people trying to justify their position. And aside from that, it took us over a month to even get a permit to drive a nail. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. So the business of communities in Wyoming, and now I'm speaking directly of Sheridan, your business ought to be to make it easier to open up a business. Reduce the amount of regulations, reduce the amount of oversight. Now, you got to have some, right? You got to have some health and safety standards, but those need to be as minimal as possible. If it's just a quick checklist, fine. If the business meets it, check. Okay, go to work and open. And by the way, the health inspector can come by and check things out every once in a while. But that's what we ought to be doing. And if towns and communities in Wyoming are suffering for revenue, then it is something that they are doing wrong. Either A, they don't have an environment that welcomes business, or B, they just don't have enough people there. And, sometimes, and what's funny, an argument was made, and I don't remember who it was, but maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, that, hey, man, if a business fails, you should let it fail, right? Because there's a reason why that business failed. you don't see a lot of businesses, you don't see a lot of stagecoach businesses or stables that are open in downtown where you can put your horse while you're in town. You don't see a lot of those. Why? Because we don't need them. Okay, so government should not be propping up businesses that can't make it on their own. Similarly, communities in Wyoming have the ability to generate sales and use tax, and the way that they do that is through business. And so now you get to the state level, and now all that sales tax gets collected and it gets sent to the state. All right, absolutely. Municipalities deserve the amount of tax that was generated in their community. And if you reduce the tax burden on the people that live in your town, if you reduce the tax burden of people across the state, and you make it easy for them to live and to raise their family and to make a living, everybody prospers. A rising tide lifts all boats at the same time. And if you've got a rockin' community, then everybody's going to make more money. But the easiest way to do that is to get government out of the way. And if you want a perfect example of why businesses have a hard time in Wyoming, just spend a couple days down here in the legislature, and you'll see it, my friends. Laws that we don't need. We never hardly ever repeal any laws, but just about every year we pass about 600 of them, or at least 600 of them are proposed. During this budget session, one of the wins, I think, though I'm not a fan of how it went down, but it's not necessarily a bad thing that all of those bills failed. Now, there were a lot of good conservative pieces of legislation that were proposed that died there. But sometimes, my friends, gridlock is good. There is never a time where your liberty is more in peril than when the legislature is in session. I mean, when those guys over in that Capitol down the street are in session, look out, my friends, because your liberty is about to be attacked in a myriad of different ways. It's not just guns. It's not just freedom of speech. It's a whole bunch of different things. And the best thing to do, I think, is sometimes nothing. All right. Well, we're going to continue with the program in just a second. We're going to talk about House Bill 10, and this one I wasn't going to talk about it. And then I got a note about some of the testimony that happened in that committee meeting, and it is absolutely outrageous. Whenever we talk about things that are appropriate for young children, man, they bring the Bible into it, and you get all sorts of crazy stuff. So I'm going to play a sound bite when we come back, and tell you why, show you why they're absolutely wrong. Back in just a second. Make sure that you subscribe and follow the Cowboy State Politics podcast. You can do that from the website, cowboystatepolitics.com, or anywhere that you get your podcasts. That way, you'll make sure that you won't miss a single episode of Cowboy State Politics. Hunting season. Right about now, you're off with all of your pals, stalking the big gigantic elk or buck mule deer that you've been thinking about all summer long. And your lovely wife is at home, probably enjoying her time without you. But soon, my friend, all of that is going to come to a screeching halt. And I want you to think about just one little thing. She's able to park her car inside the garage because all of your hunting crap is with you right now. Now, if you'd like the marital bliss to continue, I suggest you make a call to Marcos and Jesse at Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. They can build you a garage or a barn or any other type of metal structure for you to store all of your toys in so that your wife can continue parking inside the garage. And you can avoid sleeping on the couch for the next month or two. Call Morton Buildings. Their phone number is 307-674-2532. Get them to build you a metal building. before it's too late. Welcome back to the program, Cowboy State Politics Live on a Thursday, a busy Thursday, what is going to end up being a crazy busy Thursday. I know I'm going to go park my tail in the old Supreme Court chamber about 2 o'clock today, and I'm not moving until after that whole committee meeting. I know. I'm into torture, but this is what I do. This is what I put myself through for my audience, my friends, so I can report the truth to you. Oh, and by the way, there's enough crazy stuff that happens down here in Cheyenne that, I mean, a lot of it you can laugh at. We're going to do some laughing at a guy here in just a second. But politicians do some really funny things, and sometimes you just got to laugh at it. Well, the Campbell County Republican women, they've decided that after the session, we need to do a little bit of that. So they've invited Kyle Mann from the Babylon Bee, and it's going to happen on April 18th. He's a funny guy. And if you haven't looked at the Babylon Bee, you need to. It's a satire website, and it's hilarious. And the interesting thing about it is they're more accurate than a lot of the news. But anyway, that's April 18th. Kyle Mann in Gillette. CampbellCountyRepublicanWomen.com. Go check it out. It's going to be a funny show. I'm going to try to clear my schedule and go just because, hey, man, it's going to be a good time. So CampbellCountyRepublicanWomen.com. Kyle Mann, April 18th. Get your tickets now. Now, before we go into the piece on the cow pie, let's go ahead and take a call. Joseph, welcome to the program. How you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm always am. I'm on my show, so why wouldn't I be doing great?
Yeah.
So what's on your mind this morning?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about House Bill 10 that you're going to get into. From a parent's perspective, I have a 5-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 12-year-old. And it is my opinion that I should be able to turn my kids loose in the kids section of the library and not have to worry about what they're going to see. They should be able to explore and learn and gain knowledge in the kids section of the library without me looking over their shoulder. And I shouldn't have to worry about what they're pulling off the shelf.
Well, you would think so, but there's a lot of people in this Capitol building that think that that the kids section of the library is free game, man. That anything you can put anything in there that you want, and it's completely fine. And the truth is, I've been covering this, Joseph, I've been covering this story for a really long time. And there are some really, really terrible things in the children's sections of a lot of libraries in Wyoming. And, it's, and here's, did you see Julie Jarvis on the floor talking about when she had to read one of those books? Did you see that?
You know what? I didn't get to see that clip, but go for it.
Okay, so she gets up, and Julie Jarvis has been opposed to this like all the way through. I can't tell you how many speeches she's given on this bill, but she stands up and she says, "You know what? I sat down and read one of these books," and she said something like, "I'm a book banner because I don't think this book should be in schools. It is absolutely horrifying." And so a lot of the problem we see is that the folks that are opposed to House Bill 10, they've never even cracked one of these books open, and they have no idea what's in there.
Right. Well, and one of the big arguments is, well, Joseph, you should just parent your kids, right? You should just look over their shoulder. You should just keep an eye on them. And like, no, I shouldn't have to do that in the kids section of the library. That doesn't make me an irresponsible parent. I parent my children. In fact, we homeschool, but I shouldn't have to do that in the kids section of the library.
No, you shouldn't.
I shouldn't. They should be able to be free to learn and explore. I mean, isn't that what childhood is about?
Last time I checked.
Yeah. Yeah, so it doesn't make me an irresponsible parent if I think I should let my kids loose in the kids section of the library. So that's my 2 cents this morning for you, David.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate the call, and you just wait until you hear the sound I'm about to play. It's going to blow your mind. So thanks for the call, Joseph. We'll talk again.
Awesome. Yep, talk to you later, buddy. Bye.
All right, my friends. So I told you I was going to play you a video of what happened in that committee. And this is the argument that the left always uses. And it's I guess actually before I go into this, the left counts on your ignorance of the facts. And they know that the media is not going to report the truth to you. And so those two things, right? That you're ignorant, not that the word ignorant does not mean that you're stupid. It means that you just don't know. Okay. So they count on your ignorance of the facts that, hey, I mean, this is a library. We should have all sorts of books in there. Knowledge is good. I don't know, you book banner. How dare you? And the truth is you make all those arguments and you have no idea what's in these books. And then the second thing that they do is they try to trot out the Bible. I am not even kidding. Listen, my friends, to what this guy has to say. Let's see here. Here we go. And in particular, pay attention to Sarah Burlingame's face in this video. Here we go.
Most importantly, this book right here. I have the Bible in front of me, and the Bible, I don't know if any of you have actually read materials in the Bible, but Ezekiel 23:20 describes women's lust for, specifically a prostitute's lust for men. I'd like to read you the passage quickly. That is, she lusted over lovers with genitals as large as donkeys and semen like those of horses. So, to relieve herself of the former days as a young girl in Egypt, she went into prostitution where men fondled her breasts out of joy.
All right. I cannot take this anymore, my friends. That is not what Ezekiel 23:20 says. You see, this is exactly what I'm talking about, my friends, that the folks on the left, they do the exact. If you've ever read C.S. Lewis, read the Screw Tape Letters, okay? In there, it explicitly says this is what Satan does, right? He takes partial truths and then tries to convince you of the reverse. So let's start with the old King James version of the Bible. And let's see here. Ezekiel 23:20. Here is exactly what it says. It doesn't say what that. Oh, and by the way, that guy that I showed you in the video, he claims to be a youth minister. That should terrify the crap out of you. But here's what the King James Bible says, Ezekiel 23:20. For she doted upon the paramours, whose flesh is as flesh of the asses, and whose issue is like the issue of horses. Thus thou callest to remembrance the lewdness of thy youth, and bruising thy feet of the Egyptians. Okay, so if you've read the Bible, you know what they're referring to, but it doesn't say the things that guy was saying. Now, I don't know what translation of the Bible that guy's got. I don't know if it's the sex shop version of the Bible that he got down the street, but it's clearly not the King James Bible. Now, okay, so perhaps you're saying, well, David, there are lots of translations of the Bible, and they all say the same thing. Maybe he's just reading a different translation. Well, so I have a New American Standard Translation. That's it's essentially a study Bible without all the extra pages. But here's what Ezekiel 23:20 says in the New American Standard. So a translation of the Bible, and it says, and she lusted after their paramours, whose flesh is like the flesh of donkeys, and whose sue is like the issue of horses. Now, can you tell me that your run-of-the-mill, everyday sixth grader knows what that says? Can you honestly say that a young person knows what that says? No. And so you cannot make the argument that there are passages in the Bible that are just as offensive as some of these comic books. And I'm telling you, my friends, I've looked at some of these things, and they are absolutely horrifying. Now, there's an article we published on the Open Range Record that has screenshots from a couple of those books. And let me just, while I'm thinking about it, let me just find out. Man, it was quite a while ago when we published that. But House Bill 10, maybe this is it. Let me look here. No, it's not that one. So anyway, if you look at any of these books, they are not what that guy in the committee meeting was saying. I mean, it is not even close, my friends. And it's to suggest that the Bible says those things is not only heresy, it's just flat wrong. I'm still looking for that article for you here. Let's see here. All right. Anyway, tell you what I'll do. I'll go ahead and repost it on the Open Range Record Facebook page, and just show it to you, because I think it's super important that we understand facts, that we're talking about the same thing. And when you've got a so-called minister who sits in front of a committee and absolutely misquotes the Bible, I mean, this is where we're at, my friends. The left uses the Bible against us, and it's usually, and here's the thing, it's usually one of their last tactics, because they know that their audience isn't stupid, or that at least all of us aren't. They're going to research these things and find out that indeed what they're saying is not true. But again, the onus is kind of on you to do your own research. Now, I don't have to worry about this audience. I know you guys, when you hear something on the program that makes your ears go up and raises your eyebrows, well, you go look it up, because that's just who you are. And the reason why you do that is so that when you go talk to people out in public and they say, "Did you hear about that bill where they're banning books?" And then, the same thing's in the Bible. Then you can correct them. And you say, "Actually, no, that's not true. Here, let me show it to you." Just like I did. And it's amazing, my friends. But the children's section of the library, and just so I don't often do this, but the lovely Christine says this, and let me just read her comment to you. I would imagine that in the children's section of the library, you'll find a children's Bible. I had a children's Bible growing up, and I sure don't remember anything described like what that guy was quoting in the committee. Of course not, because it's not in there. Now, are there other passages? Sure. There's when I can't remember what book it's in, but they're talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, and the traveler comes into town, and there's an angry crowd, and they want to go after the traveler, and Lot gives his daughters to them. Okay, that's pretty bad, but unless you read into it, unless you know what those words are, you don't know. There's no way that you're going to be able to tell what's happening there. Another comment from Samantha Baker. Good morning, Samantha. Here's what she says. So I was told all county libraries in Wyoming, except for Sheridan, are governed by the state of Wyoming, which uses the National Library Association that tells the state of Wyoming how to govern and sets rules. Now, this might not be 100% true, but it's worth a deep dive. I've heard the Laramie County Library still follows DEI and woke laws for hire. This could be all rumors, but again, might deserve a deep dive. I don't know exactly, Samantha, but here's what I can tell you. That there's a couple of libraries in the state that have decided they're not going to follow the American Library Association. And one of those is in Fremont County, and the other one escapes me. But that's entirely a local school board decision on not school board, but library board decision on, what books they're going to include. And by the way, this is fascinating. So there is a University of Wyoming connection to the American Library Association. And I forget her name, but the former dean of libraries at the University of Wyoming quit that job and went to be the treasurer at the American Library Association. And I did a long time ago. I did an episode on this. I'm going to have to go back and dig that one up too. But it all boils down to who you elect as your county commissioner, who you elect as your school board. Elections have consequences. If you're the type of person that just votes Republican down the line, well, frankly, kind of deserve what you get, because generally speaking, conservatives are not the people that want to run for election. We're the people that want to be left alone, right? Leave us alone. We'll leave you alone. But liberals don't think like that. They want to be in power. They want to push their agenda. They're very much interested in controlling you. And so those are generally the people that pop up and decide to run for office. And so I've often told you that the place where your liberty is most at peril, it's when the legislature is in session. But when you get down to it, it's at the local level. at your city councils and your county commission and your school board, because those candidates typically do not get the scrutiny that some legislators do. And let's just be perfectly honest about it. Everybody likes to vote for their friends. Well, I know that I've known this person for 20 years. They're a good person, you know. I mean, I see no reason why I shouldn't vote for them. Don't vote for your friends, my friends. Take them out to lunch. Don't vote for them. And if you are thinking about voting for them, make sure you vet them. Sit down and have the conversation. Hey, what do you think about all these pornography books in the library? And just see what reaction you get. But the truth is, we've got a lot of issues in Wyoming that are just not being dealt with that building over there down the street. And a lot of it is the same politics you hear at the national level, certainly with all of these pornography books. And I'm telling you, let me just tell you about one of them. Okay. The first story I ran on this, I'm not the person that just takes everybody's word for it and runs with it. So I looked into some of these books, and one of them that I found that was on the naughty list was this book called Lawn Boy. And I was not going to order one and put myself on some list somewhere. I'm probably on enough lists as it is. And so I went to Amazon and I went to the little sneak peek thing that they have when you go buy a book. And in their sneak peek was a graphic portrayal of sex between two fourth grade boys. I'm not even kidding. It's in there. And I was so horrified. I could not get the image out of my head. And so I sat down and prayed just to get the image out of my head, and God took that away. And then I started looking to see where I could find that book. And one of the places I found it was in an elementary school in Carbon County, an elementary school. And these are the types of books, and that one's not graphic. Okay, that one's not the comic book type that everybody talks about. That was in written form. But that book is in school libraries, and in one case, an elementary school in Carbon County, or it was anyway. I don't know if it's still there. But you have to do your research. There's too much of this stuff that just gets turned into political rhetoric, and then you have people that show up at a committee like this quote-unquote minister. By the way, he's not a minister. And I think that he needs to do some serious reading. And by the way, if you're the head minister of the church that guy goes to, you need to have a serious talk with him and get him away from the children, because he's not teaching them what the word actually says. But all this boils down to you doing your own research, my friends, knowing what you're talking about. One of the things I pride myself on the most is I'm right 99% of the time. And that's just because I research the facts before I talk to you about it. So anyway, my friends, lots of stuff for you to pay attention to. We've only got, if they don't extend the session, but we've got roughly 7 days. So 5 next week and 2 this week to finish out the legislative session, and things are going to accelerate. And again, at 3:00 today, they're going to do that stupid special investigative committee. And so, there's not going to be a lot of business transacted on the floor, just because a lot of people are going to be in that meeting. So things are going to happen quickly. Bills are going to move fast, and it's important that you know what they all are. Well, my friends, that'll pretty much do it for today's installment of the program. Have a good rest of your day, and I'll have a lot of stuff to talk about with you tomorrow. Make sure that you check out the Open Range Record. I'm right after I get done with today's program. I'm going to go post a couple stories. I've got a couple of really good ones in the hopper, so don't miss out on that. But for now, my friends, from the depths of the Middle Swamp in Wyoming's capital of Cheyenne, I'm David Iverson, and this is the one and only Cowboy State Politics. Thanks you for watching. See you tomorrow.